yere uyo uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere nai.
Right, 27 November 2021, and today I've got a very quick update on the situation here in South Africa, and it is becoming clear that this December is just going to be as bad as the December that we had in 2019. Specifically, there is a new variant of the coronavirus or COVID, what people are calling COVID-3. So COVID-3 or Omicron is a very, very deadly strain of the coronavirus that is wreaking havoc here in South Africa. So what has happened is that in the past 3 days, the number of deaths in South Africa and infections have skyrocketed. And the reason is that there is a new strain that is affecting people, especially those who are not vaccinated, those who have received one vaccination of the Johnson & Johnson, according obviously to informal sources, because the government here, they do not provide statistics on who exactly is affected by a certain virus or what age groups. So they're not providing those information. So what we're doing is we're getting this information. Basically, we are having to determine that information or to deduce that information from public sources. So as I said, this strain has caused more deaths. So in the past 3 days, the number of deaths here in South Africa has jumped from the tens, and it hit yesterday, 114 people have died just in the past 3 days. So we've had now the hundreds of people dying. The reason this is happening, obviously, is because of 4 reasons. So I want to take you to the issue of masks. If you walk in South Africa in the public, if you're driving past, no one is wearing a mask in public. People are just walking around. Indoors, yes, it's different. People are wearing masks, but as far as public is concerned, people are not wearing masks. Then in terms of vaccination, the vaccination here is very, very low. It's not like in Zimbabwe where you've got a large number of people who are vaccinated. In South Africa, it's a very, very low number of people that are vaccinated. Then schools have reopened, especially the private schools. Private schools are going to school, the kids in private schools, they're going to school every day, every single day. Bars or beer halls, nightclubs, all these places have opened. Funerals are being held and parties have returned. If you go to any shopping mall, especially on weekends, it's packed. Restaurants are packed. So these are the reasons why there are so many infections here in South Africa, especially over the past few days. So in the past 4 days only, the number has jumped. It's now over 1,000, and the deaths, as I said, they have passed 110. So in fact, I'm expecting these numbers to jump to the same number of deaths that were there at the peak. So you remember that at the peak, South Africa had over 20,000 infections a day, but the number of people who died at the maximum were about 500, 600, around there. This time, we have low infections in the thousands, but the deaths are already somewhere around 114. So we're now at the quarter of the deaths, but with less infections. This could also indicate that some people are sick at home and they're not coming forward with information that they're sick. So especially now, if I go to the issue of school kids, information that we are receiving is that a lot of school kids are sick. Obviously, I cannot pinpoint for you the exact source, but this variant that we have now is affecting a lot of school kids. Many schools, especially the primary schools, they're affected by this variant. And if the government was providing statistics, you will see that most of the people that are falling sick are the younger people. So this variant is going after the younger people. I don't know about the number of people who are dying, whether the young kids or the young school-going kids and teenagers are also among those who are dying. But it is certainly a problem in the schools. Right now, as we speak, many schools are affected. I know many schools where on every particular day, they are having to announce to parents that there is an infection at the school. So it's terrible what is happening with this particular variant. It is more infectious, but it's also infecting the younger kids. Now let's look at Southern Africa. South Africa is the source of this Omicron virus or variant. What happened is that 4 people from South Africa, they traveled to Botswana. So Botswana also ended up with this variant because of those 4 people who visited Botswana on business. Then, as I said, obviously, this is infecting more the younger people. It's infecting more those people that are not vaccinated. And it's also infecting more those people that are vaccinated with 1 jab of the Johnson & Johnson. It means the person that has only received one jab is most likely to get this virus. Then with the issue of death, I said this is a higher death rate. More people are dying from this virus or this variant compared to others. Then in terms of economic impact, it's terrible. There's so much panic here in South Africa. People have been trying to get out of the country, especially those who came to visit. They cannot go back to their home countries. Flights to certain countries have been cancelled. Travel agencies are scrambling to get people out of South Africa. Those who were supposed to come here are cancelling. And this has all happened in a very short space of time. In fact, myself, I was supposed to travel to Zimbabwe now in a week. And my airline just wrote me to say if I want to cancel, they're willing to cancel my ticket. They've offered a full refund. They've also offered that if I want to postpone my trip, they can postpone my trip for me. So this is a serious thing that is happening, and it's happening right before the holidays. If you want to travel to the UK from South Africa, you have to quarantine, I think, for 10 days. And then when you're in UK for 2 days, you're supposed to do another test, another PCR test. And everyone that you come into contact with, they need to inform or whatever. I think the announcement was made today by Boris Johnson. You can check it out. There is a big panic because of this particular strain. Now, I want to conclude with a possibility of what could happen here in South Africa. So, is it likely that there is going to be a high lockdown? And my thinking is that we will know within 1 week what is going to happen in South Africa. I do not think they're going to keep the lockdown at this low level. People are not wearing masks. People are just walking around. If they leave it the way it is now, it's going to be chaos, especially if this virus is infecting younger people. So I expect a move to a higher level of a lockdown, and also more stringent controls, especially possibly the closing of schools. Schools are closing anyway within the next 2 weeks. But there could be an even more stringent regime of measures that the South African government is going to bring. The indoor number of people who are indoors, beer halls and nightclubs, those places, I wouldn't be surprised if they announce some closure there. Churches, funerals, all those kind of things, they're the ones which are causing these problems. And then the issue of vaccination, I don't know how they can solve it. There's not enough vaccines, and men here do not want to vaccinate in South Africa, to vaccinate. They are afraid of vaccinating because of the side effect of this vaccine. There's a belief here in South Africa that if you vaccinate, then you become dysfunctional in bed. So that is a very big, it's a big thing that is here in South Africa. Most guys do not want to vaccinate for that reason. They're afraid that they'll become incapacitated. Then I want to go to Zimbabwe. Obviously, Zimbabwe is going to get affected. Many people are going to be traveling to Zimbabwe from South Africa. So in January, we might see a spike in Zimbabwe because of the people moving up and down between South Africa and Zimbabwe. But Zimbabwe has had a lot of vaccinations, and I think the Chinese vaccine that they're using there is much more better than what we have here. If they also have the Russian vaccine, I think it is going to do a much better job than what is happening here. So the uptake in Zimbabwe is higher, and because they're using a different vaccine, I expect a lower rate of infection among those people that are vaccinated. But for those who are not vaccinated, obviously, there's going to be a big problem. Then when we come to the issue of the by-elections, we might see a postponement again of these by-elections if the numbers start to rise. So if you look at Zimbabwe, the number of deaths is now below 10 a day. The infections are quite low. And it's not like South Africa, where, as I said, the infections are above 1,000 and the deaths have now gone to around 114. So if the numbers start to rise, you are going to see the postponement of the elections, again, the by-elections, which are supposed to happen in April. They might end up not happening. So this is basically the summary of what is happening here in South Africa. A new variant, the Omicron, was identified here a few days ago. It's much, much more infectious. It has killed more people in the past few days. The number of deaths has jumped from 10, 11 there to jump to about 114. And it's going to get more. Today, I haven't seen the numbers, but I'm sure that if we look tomorrow from the National Department of Health, you're going to see much, much higher numbers of deaths coming from this particular variant. It's a very, very infectious variant, and people here have just relaxed. If I'm driving, I'm always surprised. No one is wearing a mask. People are just going about their business as if nothing is happening on the street. And the police, there's nothing they can do. There's so many people on the street right now. The gatherings are back, and these are the reasons that why we're having so many infections. In terms of why this variant started in South Africa, as I said, a lot of people come here. And also this behavior that people have got, not vaccinating, those are the reasons that are causing all these infections to originate from South Africa. Then I want to just wrap this up. I think this is a developing story. So let us see what happens within the next 3 to 4 days. I expect everything to come to a head by Friday. So everyone will know how bad this particular variant is by Friday next week. And I hope that it won't result in the total closure of the borders. If the numbers keep rising, if we see the numbers getting to 5,000 again, infections a day, then that number, I think that is a tipping point from where we start seeing a closure of the economy. If it passes 5,000 within the next 2 weeks, I've got no doubt that we might end up with a lockdown here in South Africa. Right, I think that is it. That is the summary of what I wanted to say here. Infections from Omicron rapidly increasing and also infecting more school kids and younger people and unvaccinated people. So that is it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Let's see if I'll be able to get my guest tomorrow, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much, and good night. Kuno, abo.